The night sky was quiet except for the sound of distant thunder, or so Kira thought. But that wasn't thunder. It was something else. A deep roar shook the ground beneath her small outpost home. Lights flickered. Birds flew in all directions, disturbed by something massive crashing through the clouds. Kira rushed outside. Flames lit the distant hills. Something had fallen from the sky. She grabbed her jacket, a small medical bag, and ran toward the smoke. She didn't stop to think. Her instincts took over. The crash site was off limits. Military zones surrounded it. Civilians weren't allowed anywhere near, but she didn't care. If someone was hurt, they needed help. That's all that mattered. The forest was thick and dark, but the fire ahead made everything glow red and orange. Branches cracked under her boots as she moved quickly but carefully. When she reached the edge of the crash site, her breath caught in her throat. A spaceship lay broken in the dirt. Silver metal burned in some places, while strange, glowing lines flickered along its hull. It wasn't human. Kira knew that instantly. She took a step closer, heart racing. Pieces of the ship were scattered all over. A large section had snapped off and something moved inside. Kira crouched low and approached carefully. Smoke rose from the twisted remains. Sparks popped and hissed. Then she saw him, an alien. He was lying near the broken edge of the ship, half covered in metal shards. His skin was a pale gray blue, and he wore armor that was cracked and scorched. His chest moved slowly. He was still alive, but barely. A long gash ran down his side, leaking dark purple blood. Kira froze. She had never seen an alien before. Only images on screens, only warnings in broadcasts. They were the enemy, weren't they? But this one didn't look like a threat. He looked like someone in pain. Someone dying. She swallowed her fear and moved closer. He didn't react. His eyes were shut, his breathing shallow. She knelt beside him, opened her med kit, and started working. She wiped the blood away, trying to understand his wounds. Human medicine wouldn't work well on him, but she had to try. She tore a bandage and wrapped it tight around his side. His skin twitched under her touch. The blood was warm and sticky, and when some of it touched her skin, she felt a strange tingling like a low electric current. She pulled her hand back quickly, staring. The feeling passed, but something felt different. He stirred. His eyes opened slowly, glowing faintly in the dim light. He looked at her, not with fear, not with hate, but with confusion and pain. His lips moved. He whispered something in a strange language. She didn't understand the words, but the way he said them felt soft, like a question. Kira leaned closer. "You're safe," she said, though she wasn't sure if he understood. The alien blinked slowly, then passed out again. She looked around. If the military found out she was here, they'd arrest her. If they found him, they'd kill him, or worse. He was a soldier, yes, but he was wounded. Alone. Helpless. Kira made a choice. She dragged him out of the wreckage, careful not to open his wounds again. He was heavy, but she was strong. She took the hidden forest path toward an old cave near the cliffs. It was a place she used to explore as a child, a place no one visited anymore. There he could rest. There she could help him. By the time she reached the cave, she was covered in sweat and dirt. She laid him on a soft patch of grass and cleaned his wounds again. His armor had strange markings, symbols she didn't recognize. But under all that, he looked almost human. Different, but not monstrous. She sat by the entrance of the cave, watching the stars above. Somewhere out there, someone might be looking for him, or hunting him. And if they found him, they'd find her too. But she didn't regret it. She had saved a life. That meant something. Behind her, the alien groaned softly in his sleep. His voice echoed faintly in the cave, whispering that same word again. A word that would stay in Kira's mind for a long time, even if she didn't yet understand what it meant. Something had begun this night. Something far bigger than she could imagine, and her life would never be the same again. Kira sat beside the alien, watching his chest rise and fall, His breathing was rough but steady. She had done what she could with her small medical kit, but it wasn't enough. His wounds were deep, and his body was reacting strangely to the air. Every now and then, his skin shimmered like metal catching light, then faded back to pale blue. Kira didn't know what it meant. She only knew time was running out. She hadn't slept. Every sound in the forest made her heart jump. Were the soldiers looking for the crash site? Had they already found the wreckage? Would they follow her trail? The questions ran in circles in her head. But still, she stayed with him. When morning came, light spilled into the cave through a small crack in the rocks. The alien opened his eyes again. This time he looked stronger. His hand moved slightly. Kira stepped closer. He tried to sit up, but pain stopped him. He winced and fell back. "Don't move," she said softly, kneeling beside him. "You're hurt." He looked at her. His golden eyes studied her face like he was trying to understand something. Then he slowly placed a hand on his side and felt the bandages. His fingers touched the dried blood on her arm, the part where his blood had stained her skin. Suddenly, she felt something strange. Her chest tightened for a moment. Her head grew light and images flashed in her mind. Quick, blurry like dreams. A metal city, a battlefield, a voice screaming. Then it was gone. She gasped and fell back. The alien stared at her with wide eyes. He said something in his language. Kira shook her head. "I don't understand you." But he kept speaking, slowly, carefully. Then he placed his hand on his chest and said, "Kyle." Kira blinked. "Kyle? Is that your name?" He nodded. She smiled a little. "Kyle, I'm Kira." He repeated her name softly, almost like a whisper. Kyle tried to sit up again, and this time Kira helped him. He leaned against the wall, breathing hard. His armor had strange lights in the seams, but they were dim now. Damaged. She looked at his wound again. It had stopped bleeding, but the skin around it was changing color. Purple and gray swirls moved under the surface. It didn't look normal. "Your blood," she said quietly. "It touched me. I saw something. I don't know what it was." Kyle looked serious. He pointed to her chest, then to his and said something that sounded like bond. Kira frowned. "Bond?" He nodded. Then he closed his eyes, and after a moment, her head filled with a feeling. Sadness. Not hers. His. She stepped back, surprised. It was like a voice inside her, but without words. Kale opened his eyes and touched the middle of his chest again. "Zareen," he said. "Zareen," she repeated. He pointed to himself. "Zareen." Then he pointed to the cave entrance. "War." Kira understood. He was telling her his species, Zareen, was at war. She sat down beside him. "Are you a soldier?" Kale didn't answer at first. Then he looked away and said nothing. That told her everything. He wasn't proud of it. He didn't want to fight. She could feel that, deep inside her now, through the bond. "Why were you flying alone?" She asked, even though she knew he couldn't answer. Kale looked at her again and said slowly, "Run. From war." Kira's eyes widened. He had escaped. He had run from the war. And now he was here, with her. The bond was growing. Kira could feel his emotions more clearly now. Fear, pain, but also something else. Hope. Weak, but there. She gave him water and a protein bar from her pack. He chewed slowly, not used to the taste, but he ate. His body still trembled, but his eyes were more alert. That night, as Kira tried to rest near the cave wall, she had a dream. But it wasn't hers. She was flying a ship, chasing stars. Explosions lit the sky. Voices cried out. Her ship shook and crashed. She saw soldiers in black armor. Then she saw herself, no, not herself, Kyle, bleeding, running. She woke up with a sharp breath. Kale looked at her from across the cave. He didn't speak, but his eyes said everything. He had shared his memory. Not by choice. It was the bond. Her body had touched his blood. Something inside them had linked. She stood slowly. "What are we now?" she asked quietly. Kale looked up at her. "Survive," he said. "Together." Kira nodded. Something strange had begun. Something deep and powerful. She had saved his life with her hands. But now, their lives were tied by something, more his blood. And from this moment on, nothing would be simple again. 3 days had passed since the crash. Kale was healing fast, faster than any human would. His wound had closed, and the strange colors in his skin had faded. But the bond between him and Kira had grown stronger. She could now feel his emotions, even when he wasn't speaking. It was like a second heartbeat inside her mind, sometimes calm, sometimes afraid, and sometimes watching her. They had not left the cave. It was hidden, safe, and quiet. Kira brought food and supplies during the day and returned before dark. Every time she was gone, Kale waited in silence. And every time she returned, he looked at her like she had brought a piece of the sun with her. But peace didn't last. That night, as Kira boiled water over a small fire, Kale sat across from her, staring into the flames. Suddenly, he stood up. His eyes narrowed. Kira felt it too, a strange pull in her chest. A warning. "Soldiers," Kyle said quietly. Kira froze. "How do you know?" He pointed to his head, then to her. "You feel it." "Yes?" She did. A deep fear that wasn't hers. It came from outside, like footsteps marching toward them. Without another word, Kale grabbed the few supplies they had and began to hide them in the cracks of the cave. Kira followed his lead. They didn't have much, but if someone found the cave, it needed to look empty. Minutes later, they heard voices, faint at first, then louder. Human voices. Kira's heart pounded. She held her breath and crouched low. Kyle pulled her close behind a wall of stone, his body tense like a coiled spring. "Search the area." "The scanners picked up life signs nearby," one soldier said. "Could be a wild animal," another replied, "or someone hiding a survivor. Orders are clear. If we find anything non-human, we report it and contain it." Their boots crunched on dry leaves just outside the cave. Kira shut her eyes. If they came even one step closer, Kyle gently placed his hand on her arm. Suddenly, her thoughts quieted. Her fear dropped like a stone in water. She didn't know how, but he was calming her, sharing his strength through the bond. The voices moved away. Slowly. After a long, silent minute, the sound of boots faded into the forest. They were safe. For now, Kira let out a deep breath. "That was close," she whispered. Kale nodded, his golden eyes still fixed on the entrance. "They return," he said. "Not safe." She knew he was right. Soldiers wouldn't give up that easily. Later that night, while Kale slept, Kira sat outside the cave. The stars were bright above her, but her heart felt heavy. She didn't just feel her own fear anymore, she felt his too. Kale was running from something far worse than human soldiers. Memories came to her when she closed her eyes. Kale's memories. A throne room of steel. A masked alien with glowing red eyes shouting orders. Kale kneeling before him, refusing something. Then chains. Pain. Escape. Kale hadn't just run from war. He had run from his own people. The bond was showing her everything. Piece by piece, Kale had been part of something powerful and dangerous. He had chosen to leave it behind, but they wouldn't let him go that easily. The next morning, Kira told Kale what she had seen. He didn't deny it. He just looked away and said one word, "Traitor." "You disobeyed them?" Kira asked softly. Kale nodded. She placed a hand on his. "You did the right thing." He looked at her confused. "Right?" Kira smiled. "Yes, You didn't want to kill. That means you still have a heart. Kale didn't smile back. Instead, he pointed to the sky. They come, he said. Soon. Kira's chest tightened. If they were coming, Kale's enemies, then the humans wouldn't stand a chance. Earth wasn't ready for alien war. We have to warn people, she said. Kale shook his head.
No time, you run, I fight. Kira grabbed his arm. I'm not leaving you. Their bond pulsed between them. It was stronger now, like a living thread. Kira could feel what he felt, and she knew he wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid
for her. She stepped closer. We fight together. Kale stared at her for a long moment. Then finally he nodded. That night, while the stars watched in silence, Kira and Kale began preparing for what was coming. They had no army, no weapons, and no plan. But they had each other, and sometimes one bond was enough to shake a galaxy. Something had changed inside both of them. And when the enemy finally arrived, they wouldn't be ready for what Kira and Kale had become. The night air was cold, but Kira didn't feel it. Her hands were busy building a signal jammer from broken parts she'd scavenged from Kale's ship. Kale sat nearby, checking the last working piece of his armor. It wasn't much, just a wrist unit, but he said it could still send a signal or fire one last charge. A final shot, if needed. They didn't speak much. The bond between them said enough. Kira felt his focus, his fear, his determination, and something else. Guilt. He was still blaming himself. You didn't ask to crash here, she told him quietly. Kyle shook his head. But they follow me. Hurt you. Hurt Earth. Kira looked up. Then let's stop them. He stared at her, not as a soldier, not as a protector, but as something more, a partner. The plan was risky. At sunrise, they would head toward an old human listening post hidden in the forest. It hadn't been used in years, but Kira remembered her father talking about it. If they could power it, Kale could send a fake signal to mislead his hunters. Buy us time, Kale had said. But time was already running out. That night, Kira woke with a sudden jolt. Pain shot through her head, not hers. Kyle. She sat up and saw him trembling, gripping his head. His skin shimmered in flashes of silver and blue. His mouth moved silently, like he was speaking to ghosts. Kyle. She rushed to him, grabbing his hand. What's wrong? He looked at her, sweat on his face. They near. I feel them. In mind. Kira understood. The bond worked both ways. If they were linked, maybe Kale was still partly linked to the enemy, like a wire that hadn't been cut. They're tracking you through the bond? She asked. He nodded once. Her heart sank. Then they know I'm with you. Kale's face turned cold. They will kill. No, she said. They'll have to go through both of us. At dawn, they left the cave. Moving fast through the forest, they kept low and quiet. Kira led the way, remembering old maps from her childhood. The listening post was about 10 kilometers away. Not far, but with enemies near, every step felt like walking on glass. Suddenly, Kale stopped. He raised a hand. Voices, not human. Kira ducked behind a tree. Kale crouched beside her, eyes glowing faintly. Then they saw them. 3 alien soldiers, tall and sharp like living blades. Their armor was black with red lines that pulsed like veins. Their weapons were thin rods glowing at the tips. One of them spoke in a harsh, strange voice. Kale listened closely, then turned to Kira. They say, traitor near. Kill the human. Bring Kale alive. Kira's blood went cold. They know I'm helping you. Kale's jaw tightened. I end this. Before she could stop him, Kale stood and walked out from behind the tree. The soldiers turned fast, too fast. Wait, Kira cried, running after him, but Kale raised his arm. His wrist unit lit up and fired. A burst of light shot from it, hitting the ground near. The soldiers. It exploded, sending 2 of them flying back. The third one charged, fast as lightning. Kale tackled him. They hit the ground hard, fists and claws clashing. Kira ran to help, grabbing a sharp stick from the ground. As the alien raised his weapon, at Kale's chest, Kira jumped and stabbed him in the neck. The alien screamed, flailed, and fell silent. Kyle looked up at her in shock. "You fight," he said. She smiled. "Told you. Together." They didn't wait. The blast would draw more. By midday, they reached the listening post. The metal doors were rusted shut. Kira used a crowbar to force them open. Inside, dust covered everything. Broken screens, dead wires, silence. "Can you fix it?" she asked. Kyle knelt near the control panel. "Yes, but need time." She nodded. "I'll keep watch." While Kyle worked, Kira stood guard at the entrance, holding one of the alien weapons. She didn't know how it worked, but she'd figure it out. She had to. Minutes passed. Then, an hour. Kyle called out, "Ready?" Kira ran to him. He touched the screen. Symbols glowed. "I send false signal. Say we go east. Lead them away." "Will they believe it?" Kale looked at her. "They think I still afraid. I not." He sent the signal. The lights blinked, then went dark. Kira let out a breath. "What now?" Kale looked at her. "Now we fight. For real." He turned toward the door. "We stop them before they reach city." Kira followed. She wasn't the same girl who had found a dying alien in the wreckage. She was stronger now, and she wasn't just saving Kale anymore. Together they were about to save everyone else too. The false signal worked, at first. Kale could feel the enemy shift directions, moving toward the east like he had planned. But deep down, he knew it wouldn't last. They were trained hunters. They would realize the trick soon. Kira and Kale moved quickly through the woods, heading toward the human city. Not to run, but to warn them. If Kale's people reached the city, there would be no time to defend it. Earth had no defense against weapons from the stars. As they moved, Kale slowed. He placed a hand on a tree, his eyes closing. Kira felt it through the bond. Pain, sharp and sudden, not his own. "They hurt one of theirs," Kale said, voice low. "Why?" "Failed to catch us. They punish." Kira shivered. "That's cold." Kale nodded. "They are not like you." They reached the city outskirts just after sunset. The sky was orange, and the wind smelled of metal and oil. Tall towers rose from the earth, blinking with lights. Kira had grown up here, but now it looked different, fragile, breakable. They didn't go through the gates, too risky. Instead, Kira led Kale through the old train tunnels beneath the outer walls. She knew the city's secret ways. They passed rusted tracks and sleeping rats. Finally, they reached a ladder leading into a storage building. Kale climbed behind her, quiet as a shadow. Inside the building, Kira found someone she trusted, her old friend, Milo. He ran a repair shop and owed her more than a few favors. When Milo saw Kale, he froze. "What is that?" "He's not a that. He's a person," Kira said quickly, "and he needs your help." Milo looked between her and the alien, confused and afraid. "You're serious? You brought an alien into the city?" "I saved his life, now he's trying to save ours." Milo hesitated. Then he sighed. "Okay, but talk fast. What's going on?" Kyle stepped forward. "War comes. My people. Not all, but soldiers. Kill. Destroy. I try stop. Need help." Milo blinked. "He speaks English?" Kira smiled slightly. "He learns fast." Kyle explained as best he could. He told them about the hunters, the punishment squads, and how the leaders wanted Earth as a new base, a testing ground. If they took the city, it would be the first of many. Milo looked worried. No one's gonna believe this unless they see it. They'll see it too late, Kira said. Kale placed a hand on the table. If we hit them, first, small group, quick, hit their ship before they land, we win time. Milo scratched his head. You want to attack a ship full of alien soldiers? With what? Tools and hope? Kale raised his arm. I have this. Then he looked at Kira. And I have her. Kira felt heat rise in her cheeks. She didn't feel like a hero, but the bond made her strong, and Kale believed in her. Milo sighed again. You're both insane. I'll help. He opened a locked cabinet and pulled out a small bag. Inside were EMP grenades, a drone jammer, and 2 stolen military pistols. Don't ask where I got them, he said. Just use them well. That night they made their move. Kyle had seen where the enemy ship would land, a forest clearing far outside the city. It would arrive just before dawn. If they got there, first, they could set a trap. They left under the cover of darkness, riding old dirt bikes Milo had fixed. The engines were loud, but the roads were empty. As they neared the clearing, Kira felt it, the pressure in her head. The bond trembled. Kyle tensed. They are near, he said. They left the bikes and crept through the trees. The ship was already landing. It was massive, black and smooth like glass with no windows and no lights. It hummed with quiet power. As it touched the ground, a ramp opened from its side. Soldiers marched out, 10 of them, maybe more. Kira's breath caught. We can't fight all of them. Kale didn't look afraid. Not all, just one. He pointed to the leader. A tall figure in dark armor stepped off the ship. His face was hidden behind a silver mask with burning red eyes. Kira felt Kale's pulse spike. That's him, Kale whispered. Commander Sirac. The one who had once tortured him. Kale pulled the EMP grenade from his belt. We hit the ship. Disable it. Cut their retreat. Kira nodded, gripping her weapon. Then we run? Kyle looked at her, voice calm. Then we win. As the sun rose, casting long shadows through the trees, Kira and Kale made their move. And the war for Earth's future began in fire and light. Kira and Kale moved like ghosts through the trees. The clearing where the enemy ship had landed was full of armored soldiers, but none of them expected an attack. They thought they were hunters. They thought Kale was still running. They were wrong. Kale handed Kira a second EMP grenade. You take the right side. I take the left. We throw together. Kira held the grenade tight. Her hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from the weight of what was about to happen. If this failed, Earth would burn. If it worked, maybe they had a chance. She watched. Kale moved through the shadows like a trained warrior. His injuries had healed, but the scars remained, both on his body and in his heart. And yet, he stood tall, strong, ready. Kira counted in her head. 3, 2, 1. Both grenades flew through the air. A sharp crack filled the air as the devices exploded in blue light. The soldiers froze. The ship's lights blinked out. Weapons stopped glowing. The air went still. Kyle charged in first, using the chaos. He tackled one of the soldiers and slammed his wrist blade into the armor. Sparks flew. Kira followed close behind. She aimed her pistol and fired at a soldier trying to reboot his weapon. The shot hit the side of his helmet and knocked him off balance, but the others were recovering. Commander Sirac stood tall, untouched, by the blast. His armor had its own power supply, stronger, smarter. He turned slowly, eyes glowing red behind the mask. He looked at Kale. Traitor, he said in a deep, cold voice. Kale stood his ground. Not anymore. Sirac raised his arm. A pulse of energy shot out, hitting Kale in the chest. He flew backward, crashing into a tree. No, Kira shouted. She ran to him, but 2 soldiers blocked her path. She fired again. One went down, the other charged. She ducked, grabbed a rock and smashed it into his helmet. Kyle groaned, trying to rise. Sirach walked toward him slowly, like a predator ready for the kill. You were made for war, Sirach said. Not love, not weakness. Kale coughed. That's where you're wrong. He pushed a small device into the dirt. It blinked red. A signal beacon. From behind the trees, something roared. It was Milo's surprise. An old mining machine, reprogrammed and turned into a battering ram. It rolled into the clearing, crashing through trees and scattering soldiers. Kale grabbed Kira's hand. Now! They ran toward the ship. Inside it was dark, quiet. The EMP had done its job, but the backup systems were starting to hum again. Kale moved to the main control panel. If I destroy this, they can't leave. Can't call for help. But you'll be stuck here too, Kira said. Kale looked at her. I want to be here with you. She froze for a moment, heart pounding. But there was no time for soft words. Do it, she said. Kale reached into the panel and pulled wires with sharp, skilled hands. Sparks flew, the core melted. The ship shuddered. Outside, Sirach roared in anger. The remaining soldiers tried to regroup, but Milo's machine kept them busy. Then, Sirach burst into the ship. Kira turned to shoot, but the commander knocked the pistol away. She fell hard against the wall. Kyle stepped between them. You can't win, Sirach hissed. You're broken. Kyle smiled. You broke me, she made me whole. He fought hard. Fists and blades clashed, sparks flew. Kira tried to get up, pain shooting through her ribs. Kale was holding his own, but just barely. Sirach was stronger, faster, but Kale had something else. He had purpose. He tricked Sirach, dodged a heavy strike, and stabbed deep into a power line behind the wall. Energy surged into Sirach's armor, overloading it. The commander screamed, caught in the surge. Kale tackled him into the console. Both of them went down in fire and smoke. Kira crawled to him. Kale. He groaned, barely conscious. She pulled him out, smoke burning her eyes. Milo appeared at the ramp, waving. Let's go. They're retreating. They escaped into the forest as the ship began to burn. By morning, it was gone. The enemy leader, dead. The soldiers, scattered. Kira sat beside Kyle under the rising sun. You saved us, she whispered. Kyle touched her hand. We saved each other. And though the war wasn't over yet, for the first time, hope had a face. And it looked human. The smoke had cleared, but the fear still remained. The enemy ship was gone, burned from the inside out. Its pieces were scattered through the trees like broken bones. Some soldiers had escaped into the forest, but without their leader and their weapons, they were no longer a real threat. Still, Kira couldn't relax. She sat beside Kyle, who rested under a blanket of leaves and cloth. His skin was pale and his body was weak from the fight, but he was alive. She held his hand tightly. You saved this planet, she whispered. Kyle gave a soft smile. No, we did. Milo approached from the edge of the trees. His face was dirty, and his shirt was torn, but he was smiling. We sent a message to the nearby outposts, Milo said. They believed us, finally. The humans know now. They're preparing defenses. We won't be caught off guard again. Kira nodded. Good. Kale looked at the sky. More may come. Let them, Kira said, her eyes hard. This is our home. She helped Kale stand. Slowly, they walked toward the city. The people stared at him, unsure at first. But when they saw how he leaned, on her, how she held him like he mattered, they began to understand. He wasn't a monster. He was a soldier who had chosen peace. A few even stepped forward, offering food, water, and quiet thanks. One little boy ran up and handed Kale a flower. Kyle blinked, confused. What is this? Kira smiled. It's called hope. Kyle held the flower gently. It is beautiful. In the days that followed, Kyle stayed hidden inside the repair shop. Milo helped upgrade the city's defenses using pieces from the crashed alien ship. Humans were fast learners and angry. They didn't want another surprise attack, but something else was happening too. Kira noticed it in the way people looked at her, like she was different now. Not just a girl from the slums. She had saved the city. She had risked everything. Some reporters wanted interviews, some government officers wanted Kale. Kira refused them all. He's not a weapon, she told them. He's a person, and he stays with me. Kale watched from the shadows as Earth changed. The cities started building ships of their own. New shields, new ideas. A defense network that would spread across the sky. But one thing didn't change. Kira. She still sat beside him at night. Still asked him what stars he missed. Still reminded him that even far from his home he was not alone. One evening, Kale gave her something. A small metal ring, crafted from a piece of his own armor. Inside it, he carved a symbol. A spiral, which meant bond in his language. "I don't know your customs," he said softly. "But on my world, this means we are linked. For life." Kira felt her throat tighten. "I like that custom." She took the ring and placed it on her. Finger outside, the night was calm. But far above the stars, other ships were watching. Other leaders were listening, and they were afraid. The message Kale had sent out before the battle, about Earth's victory, had been received. Some wanted revenge, others, respect. But all of them knew this. Earth was no longer weak. They had seen what happened when one human girl saved an alien warrior with nothing but kindness, courage, and blood, and it had changed everything. Kira looked up at the stars and whispered, "Let them come." Kyle stood beside her, hand in hers. Together, they watched the future rise, not in fire, but in light. And the galaxy would never be the same.